It's my life, and it's now or never. Well, I ain't gonna live forever. I just wanna live while I'm alive. 'Cause it's my life.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the rest of the lyrics. But
my heart is like an open highway. Like Frankie said he did it my way.
Is he referencing
Frankie Val? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he also references his own song in that movie.
That's what I was gonna say. Because doesn't he reference fucking living on a prayer?
Yeah, Frankie and Gina.
What?
And I'm like, that's kind of an insane thing to do. It's kind of a banger thing to do. I'm building up my own lore.
It's like what? It's like
there's a canonical sequel to the song.
Like I don't think any of their songs link, but they did a music video that followed up "Take on Me," and it like showed the characters from that music video like dying or something.
Oh Jesus! I was gonna joke that it showed them dying.
No, it does, and it's like, amazing. Oh wow.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Screen Weens. This is on episode 170 something. Oh God, I just broke the mic. It's fine. You just heard me go. Yes. 173, I think. Mm-hmm. That sounds right. 173. Yes.
I've got one question for you, London.
Yeah.
Why was The Reluctant Werewolf only in your good tier and not at least your great tier?
Well, I haven't seen The Reluctant Werewolf since I was like 13, probably.
Yeah.
I hope that I really like it when I rewatch it, but I have what if I don't? Speaking of tier lists, I just did an MCU tier list.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the full thing, but I watched a decent portion of it.
You watched up to Reluctant Werewolf, which was the fourth thing.
Yeah, the Reluctant Werewolf on your MCU tier list. Yes. I did watch your whole Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Thank you. So we saw Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Just fucking awful. The worst MCU movie I've seen.
That's a bold statement.
It might just be that I'm fucking tired.
Does that group in like the TV shows as well?
Yeah. It's the worst thing I've seen from the MCU.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
But all my coworkers are liking it. Pierre loves it, and it's just like I want people to enjoy things. But somebody said something today that's like, I don't know what people are expecting. I just want just go in, turn off your brain. I'm like, no. The MCU makes so much fucking money. They can make something good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to excuse them for this. If it was a shitty, like, B movie that was made for $5,000, I'd be like, sure, this is delightful. Mm-hmm. If you're making billions of dollars...
I'll even give, like, a lot of leeway to, like, even bigger companies, but, like, Disney is, like, the mastodon of, like... companies. It's like the big behemoth. It's like they can afford to take risks.
And it's like, and the thing is, if Ant-Man had like, if I'm watching like a shitty, let's say like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I liked quite a bit, but while the writing's definitely like feels like MCU, it does feel like a Sam Raimi movie, and it has like that creative vision behind it. While Peyton Reed, it really just feels like Disney's constantly strong-arming him. It doesn't feel like there's any conscious decisions in this. It just feels like an industrial machine.
Did they direct the last two?
Yeah, he's done all three of them.
Well, I guess that makes sense, because, he was kind of brought in as a puppet director.
Yeah.
It was before they gave directors a little leeway, so Edgar Wright was too strong-willed for them, so they're like, fuck it. We'll take half your script and boot you.
That's the only reason Ant-Man 1 works at all.
Yes. I think Ant-Man 1 is one of the better MCU movies. Because, of what I've seen of the MCU, I've only seen up to the first 3 phases. And it's like, even of that, most of that is shit. Like, I think most of those movies are fucking awful. There's only, like, a small handful
and even I was... generally positive on most of the movies that I did in that tier list, but it's like I said at the end, I'm like, every time I rewatch the MCU, I'm just like, these are not great.
Yeah, I would have put most of them into that poo category.
That's fair. I'm just like, if it was just a shitty movie, but it felt like a person directed it, I'd be like, whatever, people are enjoying it. But it's just like, what? It's just like a machine-made movie. It feels like it was generated by AI.
I mean, we're probably not too far from the corner where Disney starts to do that.
I think there's a Netflix short film, like anime, that was made with AI.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm not saying that stuff can't exist. I think it's cool. Like, it's neat. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like, hopefully it doesn't ever.
But it's obviously just people are just using it to like, what if we just didn't pay artists anymore? I'm like, oh, isn't that great? Cool.
Yeah. We need our own Voltarian Jihad or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. But the thing from Dune where they got rid of all the computers.
Honestly, like, Dune is pretty realistic in a lot of its like ideas like that.
Yeah.
For being high sci-fi, I'm like, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, no. Fucking. Let's not talk about Dune yet. I could go on.
We're doing the read Weens for Dune, which should be up in 2 days if you're watching this. If you're listening to this, day one. A day or two.
Yes.
I don't know, whenever I get around to editing.
Fair enough.
I'm sleepy.
It's not a show on a set schedule.
Yeah. Was at one point. For like the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll see you in 3 months or maybe a year or whatever.
We're trying to at least make it at least a month and a half-ish.
The next one, we had an excuse for the last one. I was on vacation. Yeah. This next one, we can read it. I can read it in like 2 days.
Okay.
I'm picking. I think it's my pick.
Yeah, like I said, I can read fast. It's just I need to know. It's like we're shooting on this day, so I can be like, okay, I need to read it by then.
Yeah.
So that's if I have a month, I'm like, I'll just wait till it's like right before.
Yeah. So Ant-Man was awful. I hated it a lot.
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors is insanely good in it, though.
Well, that's good because he's gonna go on.
He's gonna be he's the big bad of the entire Phase 5.
Well, good. At least there's something to look forward to.
Like I would say maybe the only good performance in that movie.
Oof.
Yeah, I think it just feels like all the veterans are really phoning it in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. That makes me sad though because I really do like all that.
Yeah,
there's one actor who can skirt on charm alone.
Yeah, I do think like he has that natural kind of charisma. But it really doesn't feel like it feels like he's pretty worn out. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but it feels that way. Michael Douglas also is okay in the movie, but they are really like flanderizing his character in this. Honestly, he loves ants, and that's been like a running joke. But that's all he does in this movie. He just goes, "I like ants," like over and over.
Yeah.
Which he's like fun when he says that, but that's all he does. But Evangeline Lilly's like pretty bad in it. Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't really do anything. Yeah, I think Jonathan. Also, I was saying it's like Jonathan Majors has like that wow factor in an actor to the point that it feels like when he's doing a scene with someone, it like
they do a little better.
No, like it looks way worse. It's like it like feels like he's putting on a play with like a high school. And I think that's both that he's so good, but also that like these people just don't care anymore. They're like, we can show up and be in a subpar performance and make millions of dollars.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him, but I hope he's one of those actors that doesn't necessarily like require. I realize a lot of them do it because of like guild contracts and stuff, but like it always bums me out when these like great actors get into these really big budget movies because that means their worth goes up, which isn't a bad thing. Like I want their worth to go up, but also it's like, fuck, because now they're not going to be in as many like small indie movies where they could actually like act and do stuff. So it's like shit.
But even I know it's not a small indie movie, but like even in like Creed 3, it seems like he's doing something interesting, and Michael B. Jordan is directing that one. So
I'm interested to see
and
that one.
The way I was reading some articles about like interviews with Jonathan Majors, and it seems like he still wants to do a wide variety of things.
Well, that's
so as much as he's like, in Phase 5. That's only like Phase 5s are they. That's the other thing. Their phases in the MCU last only like 2 or 3 years now. So we'll be done with. I think Avengers 5 is supposed to be like 2025 or something like that. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, we lose him for a couple of years. He's only in like 1 or 2 other movies. That's fine. We'll get him back, and he'll have a shit ton of money, so he never has to be in a shitty Marvel movie.
And who knows? Maybe with him becoming more of a popular actor, because I mean, I have no skin in this game, but I know a lot of people were upset at the cancellation of Lovecraft County. So maybe a lot more people will flock, and it'll kind of do like a cult thing where maybe it'll get another chance.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard it's great.
Yeah, so have I.
But at the same time, I've heard from a lot of my friends that Ant-Man 3 is great, so what do I know?
True.
What else I watched? One thing I did watch in theaters for the first time, it's back in theaters, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons in theaters. Right and I watched that for the first time.
How was that?
It's incredible. And, you know, I really like the theater experience, and I really like the theater experience when it's just like me and like a couple other people.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted that I waited this long, because seeing it in theaters for the first time was an incredible experience. I thought it was just marvelous and gorgeous movie.
Yeah, I've seen like bits and pieces of it, but I haven't like watched the whole thing. But
highly recommend. Let's see what else.
Eventually, we'll have to do like an annually deep dive, including the Hulk.
I have a feeling if I rewatch that movie, I'm like, this is just better than the MCU, because like he's really giving me his all. I was reading an article. He's like, yeah, I don't really want to do any more superhero movies. Like I put my heart into this movie. People don't like it, so I'm like, all right, fuck you guys. And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since I was like a really kid. I remember as a kid, I thought it was kind of boring, but I mean, I'm an adult now, so we'll see how I feel about it now.
I really liked Open Season as a kid, so
true. Yeah.
Let's see. So I watched that. Didn't watch a ton of stuff. Oh, the same day I watched Ant-Man, I also watched a movie called Marlowe, which is using the old like character of Philip Marlowe, but it's a new movie, and it's with Liam Neeson, and it's directed by Neil Jordan, the guy who did like Interview with a Vampire and Greta, your favorite movie. It was atrocious.
I really like Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah. No, Marlowe is really, really bad. It really feels like there's just a bunch of old actors in it, and it just feels like they're asleep the entire time. And it feels like Neil Jordan behind the camera is also asleep.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I did watch a movie on a whim that I've been meaning to watch. Maybe you've seen this movie. It's I, Madman. It's an old from the late 80s. It's a slasher. It's by the guy who did The Gate.
No, I mean, obviously I've seen The Gate.
Yeah. But I, Madman's about a woman who is...
it's called I, Madman?
I, Madman.
Okay, because I have a Blu-ray for a slasher called Madman, but not I, Madman.
I, Madman. It's about a woman who is reading a book from a man that's like a sleazy horror novel, and she really likes it, and she's searching for the second book in this by this guy called I, Madman. And she eventually gets it, but as she's reading it, the man is being summoned pretty much. Like he's coming out of the book. It's good. I really like the atmosphere of it, and kind of funky, and just a fun character. I really like like I said, I really like the atmosphere of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nice little like hour and a half, just jaunt.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'll have to add that one to my watch list.
Good old Tubi TV.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, and then I watched the 2 movies for the podcast, and I finished reading Dune, and I started reading a book on, I think it's called Reading the Silver Screen, and it's about like the art of films and stuff, and the art of watching films. I wanted to read a little nonfiction. I've been reading a lot of fiction lately, and I do like reading nonfiction.
Yeah, fucking after reading Dune, I've been like, I kind of want to read like an ecology book or something. So we'll see. 'Cause, yeah. But
all right.
Interesting.
Anything else you did this week?
I finished. So throughout the week, I was like, I'll read a couple chapters of Dune one day, and then I'll watch like a serial or two of Doctor Who, so I was kind of doing that throughout the week. And yeah, so I finished the first season of Doctor Who, and I'm a little bit into the second season. I haven't been able to like really take off because I was like, all right, I gotta finish reading. So Saturday I like read like a pretty decent chunk, but on Sunday I sat down and basically spent the entire day just finishing the book. And yeah, it was a fucking experience. And then last night watched the other two, so pretty much it.
Righteous.
Yeah, very fun.
Oh, also I've been playing Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated.
Oh, nice.
And I beat that.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about that new game they did.
It's literally just a sequel. Like I was like pretty much gameplay wise, I was looking at a video. I'm like, this is just exactly Battle for, which is like I'm fine with because I like Battle for Bikini Bottom. Replaying it, I'm like, some of this level design is ass. Like
it would make
some
sense.
levels that are like actively bad, and I'm like, I just want to get through.
The PS2 era had some of those, unfortunately.
But overall, like it's a fun experience in playing it again. I'm glad I did. But yeah. All right.
Nice.
Let's see if we have any questions.
Some Ant-Man themed questions. I feel like if there is any questions, he would have put one about something Ant-Man related.
He didn't. Question 1. Would you rather wear the same clothes or only eat the same meal for a month? Do you get to wash the clothes?
That is a key part of the question. Assuming that you don't, I'd go with the food.
Yeah, the food, like, easily. If I can...
reread that question. I need to pay attention to the wording.
Would you rather wear the same clothes or only eat the same meal for a month?
So... Same thing with the clothes. Is it one meal that I have to stretch out through the month, or is it like the same meal every day?
I feel like it's you have to wear the same clothes. I'm guessing you can wash them because you can just take them off. And it's the meal, and you can just make it every day. I'd probably just wear the same clothes for a month. Like
yeah.
I feel like if I get to pick the outfit specifically, there's tons of my outfits. I'm like, that's a banger of an outfit. I'll wear that for a month.
Yeah. If it's the same one, like just washing new food every time, then I would go with the clothes.
What did you just say?
Wait, hold on.
Did you just say if it's the same washing new food every day?
I'd rewear the clothes. Okay. And eat something different every time. But if it's I have to stretch the food out, then I would just wear the same clothes. Yeah. I don't think I could eat gross moldy food.
That's fair.
I can't do that.
But if it's like this, I'm fine either way. If like they're new, I guess it's like I can wash the clothes or I can eat the food. I'm like for a month, I'll do either one.
Yeah,
they'd both be kind of annoying.
Yes, definitely so.
I'd be like, cool, I'm just going to eat something. I mean, even like if I ate ramen for a month, I'd be fine.
What are the consequences if I don't do either? Huh?
You going to shoot me?
Yeah.
You going to kiss me? 2, what is the dumbest urban legend you know? Who was phone? Does that count? Do creepypastas count as urban legends? I would say so, right?
Yeah.
Especially once they get to a certain level of fame.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. It's like... I guess it kind of depends because it's like...
I would say that's like the next generation of urban legends. That's like our generation of urban legends.
Because the only urban legends that I really remember even like hearing about as a kid, aside from...
Ghost of Centralia.
Aside from like the like Tales in the Dark ghost stories, like those kind of folk horror kind of stuff. When we're talking about like actual... like, I think of like Candyman, Bloody Mary. So it's like, those are like the big two. I don't know. Maybe.
I guess, like, I think Slender Man's pretty... I think Jeff the Killer's pretty stupid. But that's another, like, internet one. Like, most urban legends I know that aren't, like... Most urban legends that have withstood, like, the testament of time that have been around since, like, I was born, I think are, like, creepy enough to not be, like, super dumb.
Yeah. Maybe...
Most of them feed on your, fear of the dark.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're including creepypastas, I would probably say the worst is probably like Smile Dog or something like that. Like,
Sonic.exe.
the Sonic.exe is a classic. Some of the Lavender Town, like Pokemon shit that you used to like come across back in the day. It's like any of the EXEs video game stuff.
There was one that I read because I was reading all this shit when I was in high school. I'm like, this is so cool. I don't know why I thought it was cool, but there was I think it was a Majora's Mask one or an Ocarina of Time one.
Yeah.
I think there was a Ben. I think Ben might have been it. Ben Drowned. Is that what it was called?
Oh,
is that a Legend of Zelda one?
Yeah, I vaguely remember hearing
this out.
I vaguely remember hearing about that one back in the day. It was like Ben Drowned, and then there was also like Bart's Dead, the Lost episode ones were always fucking stupid, like SpongeBob and
yep, Ben Drowned,
Squidward Suicide. That was one.
Creepypasta based on Majora's Mask, and it was started being published in 2010. Apparently it didn't finish until 2020, so I never finished it.
Oh.
Because they were on like big, long... Oh, because it went 2010 to 2012, and then they didn't do anything for 8 years.
Yeah, I know a lot of them were like sagas that last years. There's one that I remember really liking because I thought it was like a super interesting concept, although I don't think I would be super pleased with the execution this day and age, but it was called 1999. It was about a guy like writing a blog about like basically like when he was a kid, he used to watch like antenna cable and like it picked up on like a local channel. And it was like some guy who was like abducting children and he almost got like abducted, but like ended up like as he was going to the house to record, it was like the police were there and stuff. So he's like writing this blog years later. Like he's like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what this was. And yeah, so I thought that was super interesting as a kid.
I think I actually remember thinking Ben Drowned was pretty good. Like pretty riveting stuff. And like I read a lot of like No Sleep and like modern creepypastas, and I think most are horrible.
Yeah, a lot of them are pretty
but that's what it's kind of I love doing. The same thing with like Full Moon. You dig through garbage and suddenly you see something that like really connect with. You're like, this is like really good.
Yeah, or sometimes you might come across something that's so stupendously awful that you're like,
that loops back around.
It's like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. But so like legitimately good, I think Ben Drowned is. I might read it now that I suddenly remembered it. I just read what the third arc is, which is the one that came out in 2020, and it seems really stupid though. I think society collapses in universe, and it's like based in the post-apocalypse. I should just pick that for me. I'm not gonna do it. I know what I want to pick for readings. It's been a long time coming.
Jeff the Kill.
The Bible.
I've unironically been. What if I just pick like the Bible or the Quran or something? Like, fucking.
Yeah, that wouldn't come to bite us in the ass at all.
No, definitely not. But
three weirdos review the Bible.
What? There's some episodes where I'm like, not that I have any objection to reading these things, but they just strike me as funny episodes because it's like three guys reviewing it. Like I'm like, what if we did like an episode on like Little Women or something? Like it'd just be like, I guess we do that with the podcast sometimes.
Yeah,
where we cover stuff where it's like we're not the target demographic, but we like it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I feel like we are worldly enough in what we watch and consume that we can at least have appreciation for certain things.
Yeah.
Saw a TikTok today from someone who they also have podcasts, but they talk about Marvel and stuff. They love.
No, we just talk about how much we hate.
Yeah, and they're like, "What's your two favorite movies of all time?" And the guy goes, "The Avengers," followed by "The Greatest Showman," and I was like, "What?" The fuck? And then I think the other guy said Empire Strikes Back followed by War for the Planet of the Apes, which I'm like, at least those are like movies. I liked both. Like I love Empire Strikes Back, and I remember liking War of the Planet of the Apes a lot. But
yeah, I think it's easily
I think those at least make sense as picks. I'm like, that's fine. I do think all of those. I'm like, they're still pretty new. Like Empire Strikes Back, that's like 40 years old. That's fine. But when you like if I ask somebody their top 10 movies and they're running a movie podcast and none of those top 10 are like from the 90s or earlier, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
You can, if you're just a regular person, sure. But if you're trying to be like an authority on movies or talking about movies and having people listen to your opinions, I'm like, maybe you should know more about movies.
Yeah.
I hate to be like a person that's like, watch more movies. But if you're doing that, like if you're putting your voice out there to recommend people things, you should know what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, in my stomach, I agree with you. Like there is something truly repulsive about that concept to me. At the same time, in principle, I don't know if I can wholeheartedly agree.
Well, no, like, even as I'm saying it, I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because when we start, I'm like, I don't know fucking shit about that.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, on top of that, it's like, as much as like we might not connect with that point of view, there's tons of people who would like probably like listen to that podcast.
Yeah, no, and they are popular. So maybe I'm just bitter.
Yeah, perhaps.
Even though I don't actually care.
Yeah.
I think I'm just... The Avengers?
The first one?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's better than picking Age of Ultron.
People love that Whedon dialogue, I guess. I think Whedon's not the worst at writing dialogue, or at least, like, I think Buffy's dialogue is fine.
I haven't watched Buffy. I think that some of early Whedon, there's a certain point in his career where he realized how renowned he was, and it feels like it became kind of jerk-offy. That, and it's just like too... It's not quite Flanderized, but it's like just a step above Flanderized.
Yeah.
Everything's just
he's
like,
kind of cannibalizing his own ideas and stuff.
Yeah, where it's just like everything, I don't know, it's very quippy and hollow. And it's like, I don't like that kind of stuff typically. I mean, there's examples that I do like, but
I like James Gunn's quips though. Like, you know, but at the same time, I think James Gunn is able to articulate genuine like emotion a lot better than a lot of these other quippier people.
No, I agree.
So I think I can stand. I also think he's really good at like blending those together. He's good at switching back and forth.
I think, of all the superhero contemporaries, he's like one of the few that actually knows. I feel like all these Marvel movies, they're like, we're going to give it heart, but they don't know how to actually give it heart. It's all very surface level, whereas like...
But don't let emotion sit. Ever.
Whereas James Gunn is one of the directors who actually is like, no, I understand like how to put heart in my movie.
That's why like I thought Peacemaker was so good as a show.
I still haven't watched his...
Did you watch... You didn't watch the Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, I haven't watched any
You don't watch things anymore.
I did. Not at least not big bombastic things. No, I like to watch old stuff.
That's silly. No, I do too. I just okay. And question 3: why does no one ever talk about Billy Mays anymore? He's dead. What is there to say? Also, I just saw a TikTok yesterday of someone doing a Billy Mays impression.
Yeah.
So maybe you're just on the wrong side of the internet, pal.
Yeah. I mean, while it's not specifically Billy Mays, I still come across a lot of people who like Chipotle away bit from South Park, which is like a Billy Mays parody. So it's like, like he's still around. Yeah.
In our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you for the questions, Pierre. We always appreciate you. Yeah. Ooh, MCU, that fucking sucks. All right, let's talk about Charles Burnett, who we've covered before with we covered Killer of Sheep. And, you know, I was worried going into these because I'm like, I liked Killer of Sheep, but I didn't connect with it as much as I wanted to. Mm-hmm. But I watched My Brother's Wedding from 1983, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. There was... I was kind of like lukewarm through the first part of it because I was kind of like... I'm like, why is this character acting this way? And then as soon as you got the reveal of like, oh, he's lying. Okay. Because I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, is he lying or is this bad writing? And then it kind of came clear. Because the whole time where he's like, man, I don't like my brother's wife because she's too fucking stuck up and rich and talking about how she had a lot of shit as a kid. And it's like, okay, I can kind of get that, but it seems like a very like abrasive reaction. But then it made sense and I was like, oh, he's sleeping with her. Okay. Yeah, no, I thought this one was pretty good. Pretty good. Liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like, even... Do they ever specifically say that they were sleeping together? Or is it just...
It's heavily implied. She stands in the doorway and peels off her ring. So it's like...
It's interesting because I actually don't feel like the response he has is... I think it's, like, inappropriate for him. But I think it's pretty understandable as, like, an internal monologue for himself.
Yes.
I think, like, I was reading that book that I was talking about decoding the Sower Screen. And they were talking about how he's also, like, a literary professor. He was talking about how literature is a lot different because you can just say internal monologues of people, while everything in movies have to be external. And what's interesting about Charles Burnett is I feel like he has his actors do a lot of micro expressions to try to convey their internal monologue at all times. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they're really just wearing all their emotions on their sleeves, especially with this main character of Pierce? No.
Yeah, I think it might be Pierce.
Pierce, yeah, who's constantly struggling with this idea of, like, he kind of wants to be a good son, but he just doesn't like his brother, who's, I think in his mind, he kind of sold out. He's not really he's just like, what is his brother's not a lawyer, because his brother's fiance is.
Yeah, so
I think he's a doctor or something like that.
They have, like, a whole conversation about, like, doctors and lawyers.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a liar.
No, I think his fiance is a doctor. She's like, her dad's a doctor.
Yeah, she's a lawyer because there's the scene in the dining room table where she's like, we won. And he's like, that guy was a fucking murderer. What's wrong with you? And I think he's pretty, like, I think, like, being angry at people like that is, like, justified. But he's just, like, constantly, like, saying it. He's saying, and I think that's actually an interesting juxtaposition with the second movie that we're talking about today, because they're like the exact opposites. Like, this Pierce as a character is constantly just saying the quiet part out loud. Mm-hmm. And his family does not like that. And the only person that seems to enjoy that is, who's the guy that gets out of prison?
His name is...
Bilbo Baggins. Oh, Soldier. I was like, it's not a name, it's an occupation. I was like, doctor? But Soldier is he's a no good guy. He's been in prison, and the only one that seems to really care about him is Pierce. Mm-hmm. And seems kind of the same thing. The only one that seems to care about Pierce is Soldier. To me, or at least to him.
Yeah, to me it obviously it's like, it seems like they grew up very close to each other, so they almost view each other as brothers, where it's like he doesn't have that same camaraderie or any sort of relationship with his actual brother, who doesn't even, like, look up most of the time when he speaks, like, which I thought was a nice kind of trick. The only time he, like, really looks up is when he's, like, insulting his brother. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, he might warrant a comment in the situation. He's, like, lashing out and shit, acting a fool in public, but it's like, but obviously it's like, you're kind of meant to view it as, like, through his scope of the film. So, like, this is stuff that's probably the grander scheme of his life. And I think that's kind of interesting because you kind of get a similar comparison in the next film. The brothers in that movie also kind of have, it plays out differently, but it's a similar dynamic.
Yeah. It actually feels like, even though these movies were made, I think, like 5 or 6 years apart from each other, it feels like they're almost like sister films.
Yeah, I could see that.
More so than, like, Killer of Sheep, which I also, I think Killer of Sheep also explores some of these same concepts. Mm-hmm. I want to watch, he did another movie in 94, I think. and I think it's like a police like kind of drama, and Ice Cube's in it.
Oh yeah, I saw the poster for that one.
I almost watched that one.
Yeah, because I was looking on the rental because I was trying to rent my brother's wedding. It wasn't available just to like rent from any place I was like looking at, but one of the places where I found a different Charles Burnett movie, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can click on his director page if I can get to it, and it was like just like To Sleep with Anger, the Ice Cube movie, and then like 2 other movies that they didn't look very good. I don't know if he was like a big
he did a couple of short films, and he did a couple of like not so great films later in his career, and he's still kicking. He's still around.
At least the posters looked.
No, that's fair. I looked at some of them. But he also did cinematography for a couple of other films in the LA Film Rebellion, and I think he edited a couple too. Yeah. Like he seemed to be pretty prominent, not just in his own movies for the LA like Rebellion, but also like others. Didn't look like he ever did anything with John Funaka, but he was around. I'm sure they knew each other pretty well. It seemed like they were all close-ish. I know there's a movie that I've been meaning to watch, and it's about like the history of black film. I think it's on Netflix. And Charles Burnett is in it. Like he talks about his movies. It's new too. It came out like last year. So I'll probably watch that soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, My Brother's Wedding. Also, it feels like Soldier is a character I think is pretty interesting. He is like a sleazebag. He's not very good. He's not a good person to Pierce. He's pretty manipulative and uses him, and Pierce kind of just lets him. Because I feel like in Pierce's mind, it's like, well, at least he thinks I can do these things, while his family doesn't really think anything of him.
Yeah. No, I feel that. And it's like, I wish we could have gotten a little more, because I don't even know if it's necessarily like coming from an intentional place of like, oh, I'm trying to manipulate this guy's.
Yeah, I think there are people that just don't see it in their mind that they're like being manipulative or they're stepping on people.
Yeah, because I think like it seems like the character of Soldier genuinely like does care about Pierce, even if he does kind of like act a little weird sometimes. But it's like, I don't know. I could easily see like if the situation were reversed, maybe Soldier would fucking let Pierce get away with some of that kind of shit. But but anyway, the whole like kind of crux of the film comes to a point where basically Soldier dies, and his funeral's on the same day as his brother's wedding. So he's basically kind of put in this place where, his family is like telling him like, no, I don't give a shit. You have to be at this wedding, even though you've been nothing, even though it's clear this whole time that you've been against it and you argued with the bride on multiple occasions and her family. It's like, we still want you have to be there.
And he's like the best man. He's like, what the fuck?
And you have to be the best man. You're your brother's best friend. And we've seen
that's not true.
Yeah, it's like we've seen how that.
If it's like, wow, if that's how you treat your best friend, I don't want to see how you treat your enemies.
Right. But so he's just kind of put in this spot, and he attends the wedding partly, but it gets postponed because they're like, oh, we have to postpone the ceremony because one of the relatives is running late, so she'll be here soon, a vague soon, and he's just like, no.
He's like, I gotta go.
This is not happening. I'm leaving. So he leaves. He just
with the rings.
Yeah.
I don't think he realizes it in that moment. But,
yeah, he was just kind of in a rush.
But he leaves and he rushes across town and he gets to the parking lot and he realizes that the funeral's over. Like he also missed the funeral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the movie ends with him looking at the rings in his hand, having missed both these important events in his life.
Yep.
And yeah, I think this movie is pretty like dense in what it wants to say, like about choosing over like your family and your friends and your loyalties and what indecision, how that affects you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing that I'm not sure if I gelled with in this movie was the plot line with like the girl who kept coming to flirt with him. It was like, what were you trying to say with this? Like, what's the point here? I'm not
the like child.
Yes, yeah. It's like, and also, why is he not denying her? Like, he doesn't like get like he doesn't say anything to like dissuade her, but he also doesn't do anything to like encourage it. He's just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna let you come up and act a fool in front of me. And it's like, then his mom comes in one scene and she's like, aren't you supposed to be like home watching cartoons or something? And she's like, oh fuck, and like leaves. And it's like, yeah, let that cringe experience dissuade you from ever doing this before you have a worse experience.
I think that's an interesting like idea for a scene. I agree that I don't know exactly what they were going. It feels like maybe Pierce as a person is so like maybe even pathetic as a person because he can't stand his family. His family doesn't seem to be able to stand him. And this is one of the only like things in his life where someone looks up to him.
I see.
Even if it's an uncomfortable situation where this like pretty much child, this teenage girl wants him. It's like, at least someone wants me in their life.
Yeah. Okay. I can kind of see that being the idea behind it, I guess.
But I think I would have liked that idea a little more if they had made him like a little more pathetic of a character.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the kind of neo-realism, like the want for Burnett to display humanity at its core, I think stops it from making characters. I don't know. I think sometimes the journey to making things realistic causes some scenes to lose what their themes should have. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
But yeah, I saw that. I liked the scene okay. And I like that lead a lot. I think he's pretty good at being this kind of like wandering soul who's...
Was this the only thing he ever did?
No.
I tried... I think it was the only thing that popped up on his letterbox. And I was like, oh, well, that's sad. He was pretty good in this.
I think this was pretty much like... Seems like pretty much all just... Yeah, I'm looking at... I think this was pretty much everyone in this was...
Their one film.
Yeah, there were a couple like people in the background that have been in a bunch of stuff, but all the leads...
Yeah,
they were like non-professional actors, and I think Charles Burnett, looking at like John Funaka, I think both of them were good at directing non-actors. Even the person like this is not part of the LA Film Rebellion, but looking at like Barbara Loden, she was also really good at directing non-actors. And you get a sense of authenticity that you don't get from like actors.
Yeah,
at least you can.
Yeah, it's possible. You just have to know how to bring it out of a person and also have a person that's willing to like try and go to those places when they're acting.
That's why I was actually pretty interested in To Sleep with Anger, because I'm like, it's like a pretty big cast.
Yeah.
Like they got some big names in that one. So I was like, I wonder how he would be with like actors if he's able to. We'll talk about To Sleep with Anger very shortly, but overall, I think My Brother's Wedding is kind of bleak. I think both these movies are pretty bleak, in ways at least. This one's certainly much more bleak, though.
Yes.
Pretty sad, because it also doesn't feel like Pierce is a character. Because you can always take like ideas from how the movie's set and make assertions and like what would happen to them after that. It doesn't feel like Pierce is going anywhere.
Yeah, no,
he doesn't like that indecision is his final thing in the movie.
Yeah, like he's probably not gonna get a warm welcome when he goes to visit Soldier's family in the future, and his family's gonna be fucking pissed with him. But
which will just lead him to not want to do anything anymore at all.
Yeah, it's like either he'll mend those bridges, or he'll maybe move away and go somewhere else, start new. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to declare with that sort of a thing. It's like, yeah, probably just gonna. A lot of these like neo-realism films tend to have characters that'll just like go back to the grind.
Yeah. Which is true for society. There are a lot of people that are just going to work until they die.
Like
probably going to work.
I had that thought at the end of To Sleep with Anger, because there's that one line where it's like, well, what lesson did you learn? I'm like, this isn't real. Like in real life, you would go through all the traumatic shit and then you'd be like, I'm going to bed. And you'd wake up the next day and just keep
Be
fucking
slightly less pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, but I really like this movie. I did connect with it mentally more than I did with Killer of Sheep.
yeah, I need to rewatch Killer of Sheep.
I do too, because
that-
I'm saying that, but I'm like, I don't even really remember it.
Yeah, the only things I really remember from it is I remember the scene where the kids are like jumping over the roof because I was like, that's dangerous.
I remember the dog mask.
And then I remember the dance scene at the end. It's like, oh yeah, that scene's good.
Dancing scenes are great.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the kind of thing as I'm getting older, because I really liked the realism stuff when I was like kind of like getting into my early 20s, but now it's like, okay, I still like it and I appreciate it, but like if you're gonna give me a film like that, I want there to be some at least juicy drama. I don't, when it's too minimalist, I'm like a little.
I think it just depends. I also think it just depends on the day, and I do think that depending on even the year, that dictates how I'll feel on days. Like there'll be months where I don't feel like watching a movie like that, and then there'll be a month where that's all I want to watch. Just things like that.
I feel.
So, I think there will always be a part of me that wants to watch certain types of movies at certain points, but I get what you're saying. That I do think as I grow older, even like in the last 3 years, like as we've been doing this podcast, I think the days that I want to watch a full moon movie have changed. The days that I want to watch a 7-hour movie on a small Hungarian village have changed.
Yes.
But the thing is, like, it's if I sit down and I put away my phone and I turn off the lights and I turn on a movie, I think regardless of the movie, I could get into it. And it's just so hard to do that. Like that first step.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, it's true.
It's hard to wash away all the burdens of your life. It's hard to think about anything besides work or drama or stress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am not the type of person that's ever been able to leave my work at work. I think about it all the time. I think about jobs that I haven't worked at 5 years and things that I could have done differently. Mm-hmm. Like, why? Why do I do that? I don't give a shit about those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now, but why do I still do that? But,
yeah. I'm mostly one of those people that's like, oh, fuck, I have to go back soon. Oh, no. Like, shit. In 12 hours, I'm going to be at work again.
In 13 hours, I'll be at work again.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky that I have a job that I really enjoy.
I'm not so
lucky. The pizza man. Anyway, you like this movie?
Yeah, I like it.
I really enjoyed this movie. I would give it an 8.
Nice.
Let's talk about To Sleep with Anger from 90, maybe?
Yeah.
1990. Oh, by the way, My Brother's Wedding, before we get into Sleep with Anger 2, did you watch the hour and 20 minute cut?
Yeah, I think so.
Apparently the original cut of the movie was like 2 hours.
Oh, really?
And Charles Burnett re-edited the movie in like 2004.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was reading a review talking about that.
Well,
and how they talk.
If I had known that, I would have gone out of my way to try and find the old cut. But interesting.
Apparently it's just a lot more of like wandering and stuff and scenes with people. And there are like whole scenes with just like random people that are cut out because he wanted to originally capture like the neighborhood more.
Mm.
Which I get it. In those types of movies, you do want the neighborhood to feel like a living, breathing character by itself. But anyway, To Sleep with Anger, 1990. Stacked cast. Has Danny Glover. And Danny Glover in like his prime. Like he was doing like Lethal Weapon. He was doing all these big name movies. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the fuck? But
yeah, he's
in this movie. And I think it might be the best thing I've seen him in. Or like the best performance from him. I love his performance.
Yeah, he like considering that it was kind of in his like big era and the fact that like, because I've seen other like good performances from him, but yeah, in this movie, it was pretty good.
And so this is the weirdest thing. When I was watching this, the weirdest thing that I felt was Jonathan Majors acts like him when he plays Kang. Like, the way that he plays this character, that's how Jonathan Majors plays Kang, at least in my opinion.
I wonder if he... I mean, I'm sure he probably...
They were in Last Black Man in San Francisco. I forgot that Danny Glover was in that. So, like, they know each other. And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Glover was, like, an acting role model.
Oh, probably.
Because Danny Glover's huge. He's an acting role model for me.
Yeah, no, he's great. I love Danny Glover.
But I was just like, that's so funny.
Yeah.
And I don't know if other people feel that way, but just his, like, small, like, mannerisms even, and the way he, like, walks and kind of...
Yeah, he's really good at being, like, casually big. Like, he doesn't have to do a whole lot, but he's got a presence about him.
No, that's it. And it's like, in this one, it's a menacing presence from the very beginning. Because there's a sense of, like, magical, like, surrealism to this. Like, weird... It's never, like, confirmed if it's magic, but it feels like this guy might actually maybe be evil. Yeah,
the film never goes, like, fully out in the weeds to be like, oh, yeah, like, this is, like, a thing, but it's always, like, little things in the background where you're like, oh, and by the end, it kind of adds up. Like, there's a scene where he's, like, first meeting people, and he goes to shake this pregnant woman's hand. The second she goes...
Baby kicks.
Oh, whoa, he's like flipping around in there.
Well, and right before that scene, he meets the other kid who immediately puts a broom on his foot.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, oh, just a kid being weird. But then immediately after, the baby kicks, I'm like, what's happening? And Hinata turns to me and she's going, is this magic? Is this a magic movie?
See, I didn't pick up on most of that throughout the movie. It wasn't until like after when I started going, I'm not a hugely like magical person in real life, so I was like, I'm watching like a real movie. Oh yeah, she's weird. Pregnant. It's just like a scene. But.
It seems like that. Well, no, in this movie, like that, it really ties. There's a lot of like black folklore, and like urban legends. They talk about Tobies, I think they're called, which are like charms to keep you safe from like crossroads and stuff, and. The Gideon talks about his Toby being missing. Gideon's the grandpa.
Yeah, they both mention.
But then he talks about it, and then like the next scene, that's when Danny Glover shows up. Like he knocks on the door. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? So thinking back on it, it's like, did he hear that? Is that why? But then he was like, oh yeah, you don't want to be around without a Toby. You don't want to be at a crossroads. Like,
yeah.
So there's like. I really want to rewatch this one, knowing like the ending, because I also think I was reading a couple of different readings about this movie too, being like, is he an evil figure or is he like there's some readings that he's more of like an angelic figure, that he shows up because this family needs to like show their burdens. They need everything to boil over for it to evaporate.
I could see the argument for that, but it definitely feels like at least the movie wants you to buy into the concept that he at least has an evil energy about him. There's several scenes where he just... and while I see the point of like, oh yeah, but all the chaos results in like this huge... like the death of rebirth kind of a thing. But it's like... yeah, but he's just doing evil shit, and he talks about doing evil shit. Yeah, I
guess you could say it's purposely evil. I would say I would dig more of that reading more than that one. Like, evil with a purpose, like even a good purpose, I think can exist and is an interesting concept. Too. But yeah, he's a fascinating character in this. He's pretty much an old family friend that they knew like 30 years ago back from down south. And he shows up on the door and he's like, I was in town. I don't even remember. He was like, I was just traveling through. And they're like, well, come in. He's like, are you sure I won't be a burden? He's like doing a weird little whisper voice like, are you sure? And Hinata looked at me again and she was like, the fuck is this guy doing? This guy's so sus. Like, yeah, he is. But there's this like, they're like God-fearing Christian folks. Like, no, we got to help you. And then one of their sons, Junior, is like the perfect child in their mind. And then their other son, whose name is Samuel, but they all call him Babe Brother, which I was like, baby brother, because it's like that. It's babe brother. And everyone calls him that, including his parents. So at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, who is his brother? Is the older guy?
Right.
Because I thought they were just saying baby brother. And I'm like, I guess it's just, I don't know. I don't know what this name means, but.
Yeah, it's just.
But they are constantly calling him something he doesn't want to be called. Even like his wife is calling him that, which is funny. I've been watching a show on Hulu called Abbott Elementary, which is a newer like sitcom about like an inner city school in Philadelphia and the teachers that work there. And the wife or the girlfriend, I think they're just boyfriend girlfriend, but the girlfriend of Babe of Samuel, she plays one of the teachers in Abbott Elementary. And she's like 60, but immediately I'm like, wait a minute. Even though this movie was like 30 years ago, I'm like, because she looks almost the exact same. That show's delightful. I've been having a lot of fun with that show. But yeah, so it's the same kind of thing. A family obviously prefers one of the brothers, and the other brother can't seem to do anything right. And then he starts to be pretty much corrupted by this evil influence of Harry. Yeah. Of Harry, who seems like a friendly enough figure and is like helping out and is like, yeah, I'm here to stay. I'm going to help out. I'm a nice guy. And everyone's like, oh yeah, this guy's cool. But then he like starts partying all the time, bringing people over, and then saying questionable things about women not being equal to men.
Yeah. He's got this like scene early on where it's like, Samuel, his, partner and their child. And, he's just got like, he just pulls out a knife and tells a story about how he may or may not have killed a man at one point. It's like, the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah. Throws party, brings like corn liquor. It's like, gets everybody all like fucking. He's like, he makes comments earlier in the film. He's like, yeah, this stuff, this will really bring out the worst in you. And he's like, yep, here's some corn liquor, folks. Let's start drinking. And eventually the dad like falls ill, like the big dad.
And seemingly it's like, did he do that? It seems like because he's all alone, they go on a walk together, and then he's suddenly not feeling well. And Harry goes to be like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of him. And then when the wife gets back, he's like almost comatose. Yeah. Like he's significantly worse every time he hangs out with Harry. So could be like there's multiple readings of the movie. Like it could be that Harry is actively like this criminal who's like poisoning people and sowing distrust just because he's funny, or he's like an evil entity and just being around him is like damaging to people. Or he's just a regular asshole that everyone just happens to blame for everything. Yeah. Which I also think is an interesting reading of the movie. Like, you could, because there are times that, there's just a figure that people don't necessarily like, so they just use them as a scapegoat for all their woes. Like, that's one of the easiest ways to, like, make friends with people or make up, is just having a common enemy. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Jumping into a bit of spoilers here, but yeah, because even if he is like this evil figure, like I felt bad for him when it's like, anyone mind if I just took a peek at him real quick? And they like pull off the blanket and he's just there with his like tongue sticking out and his like eyes rolled into the back of his head, and it's like, I always thought he had big eyes. It's like, god damn, what if this dude was just an asshole? Like, I guess he was an asshole, and
the movie definitely goes more into its dark comedy roots right at the end, because Harry. So Samuel as a character kind of goes off the deep end. He like hits his wife on accident, according to her. And I'm like, he's being corrupted by the evil.
Sure,
maybe.
I mean, the way that the film, or at least his character in the film, describes it, because he's like. The end, he's like, it was awful. It was like being in muddy water. It was like super cloudy. I don't know. But it's like, you were an asshole before he showed up, it seemed like. Like, granted, you weren't as big of an asshole.
It does feel like in his mind, he actively believes that, which I think is the only, I guess, important part for the story that's being presented.
Yeah.
But he gets into a fight with his brother because he's not like helping out with something. And they get into like a fist fight, and there's a knife on the ground, and his big brother almost kills him.
Yeah, because
he's going to, and then the whole family runs in, and the only way they stop the fight is
his mother grabs the knife by the blade, and
which I think is also a really strong parallel to Harry's character of like constantly pointing the knife at people, and like sowing this disdain for each other, and her grabbing that point to stop someone from being hurt.
Yeah. Because, like, Samuel's about to leave his whole family. Because, like...
Yeah, he's going to go on a trip with Harry. Harry's taking them all back to hell.
Yep. We're going to go back to the South. And it's like... But, yeah, no, there's lots of, like, just tiny stuff that points to him being, like, a devilish figure. Talk about, like, the crossroads and stuff like that. And him down south and stuff. Which is like, oh, hardy her. But, yeah, basically, like, the mother grabs the knife, and immediately they're like, oh, fuck, we gotta take her to the hospitals.
Yeah. And then from there, they're, like, pretty much all good to each other. It's like, did that fix everything?
Yeah, but they come back from the hospital the next day, and it seems like the father's at death's door, like, it's getting real close. And, like... Harry's back, and he's like, I'm just grabbing my things, and it seems like the implication of that is like he's waiting for Samuel to join him. Samuel's kind of like,
yeah, and he's sitting there, and then Samuel pretty much tells him off. And one thing that like that makes me like read a little more into this reading that like maybe he was there intentionally until this point just to kind of make this family love each other more is at this end. It really, like, if you look in his eyes, it feels like he's just kind of like, I'm done. He looks like a sad tiredness. And then when he walks in and he falls on these marbles, it looks like intentional. Yeah. Like
I noticed that because he stops and it, like, obviously you don't see him look down, but with the timing and stuff, it seems like he's looking down and it just, whoa. Yeah.
And Hina said that the first time, and we rewatched that scene, and then she didn't agree with that the second time. But no, I still agree with that. It feels like he wants to, and maybe
it's probably meant to be kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
like
and you could also maybe argue that maybe he wants to hurt himself so that he has to be put up with these people, and he doesn't need to kill himself.
Yeah, that's what I initially thought, and then I saw him grab his arm, and I was like, that didn't happen.
So, and that seems like, so I think. Man, like, and this is one of those movies that talking about it more and more. I'm like, that's so interesting.
Yeah. No, I like this is easily my favorite of his movies.
Yeah,
I've seen. Yeah, this one is really good. But yeah, he dies, and then no one's able to come grab his body for a couple days, which is a dark humor kind of thing, but it's also just like, oh yeah, like I could easily see something like this happening.
Yeah, like, if they died in our care, we'd have to take him, but he's dead, so you gotta wait until the county coroner comes in. Like, he's on vacation or some shit.
Yeah, so he's there for, like, at least a couple days. Yeah. And
people are just living their life, just walking there. Poor Harry, poor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's in our kitchen. We put a quilt over him.
But right after he dies, Gideon's like, I'm all better. He just gets up and sits, and they're like, what the fuck?
It's like, how long have I been out? And they're like, weeks. And he's like,
oh, I thought it was like 20 minutes.
Oh, fuck. Oh, okay. Who's that? It's Harry.
Our Harry? I think he says our Harry.
Yeah. Our friend Harry? Oh, no.
Because he hasn't been around for long.
Yeah, it's like, well, damn. What happened to your hand? Like, he's just noticing everything that's happened. But yeah, dude, I love the very, very end of this movie. Because it's like, you zoom in on his like body under the sheet. And earlier in the movie, there's basically like, she's like, there's a scene where the mother is like confronting Harry, and she's like, are you like, I want you to leave. Like, are you a good man? And he's like,
oh yeah. And
he's like, you invited me into like your house, and she's like, under the assumption that you were like a good friend, but are you really like a good friend? And
like, what is a good friend?
Yeah, and he's like, that kid over there, because throughout the whole movie, there's just a kid next door, like playing a trumpet really badly. He's just like, and it's like not even music. He's just playing it. He's like, if that kid were a real friend, he would stop playing that
never
trumpet.
play it again.
But if he does that, he'll never get good at what he wants to do.
I think he specifically says he'll never be perfect in the future.
Yes. And it's like, I mean...
And then in the very end, he's good.
Yeah. And it's like, I like that line. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean, though? Like, it's a lot to process. Like,
no, I think that might be like one of the most profound things I've heard in a movie in a while.
Yeah, no, it was because like obviously we've been reading Dune, and Dune's got like a lot of like deep cutting kind of like lines like that, like just ideas and litanies and stuff like that. But like in terms of like from a movie just watching recently, yeah, that was probably like one of the most just like, oh shit. Things I've heard in a while.
I think it's especially like, and it feels like that kid is pretty reading about this movie. Charles Burnett played the trumpet when he was a kid, and that's his son playing it.
Oh, nice.
And he, as a kid, would open the windows of his apartment and just blast it to annoy his neighbors.
Yeah,
but because he did that, he also got.
I see.
So I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah, that line I've been thinking about a lot lately. It was like, yeah, there are things that we do because it is a burden to others, or that we don't do because it's a burden to others. But when we don't do these things, we rob ourselves and others of these things in the future. How can being a good friend in the moment, is that being a good person in the long run? Is that being your best self in the long run? Which is weird because this is like literally like this devil character saying it.
Yeah, and with the context that he says it in, like he's also got like lines earlier in the movie where he's like, oh, you know, evil is like something you gotta work at, you know. So it's like kind of left open to interpretation what it means for him, but obviously like that line's bigger than his character in the movie. So it's like, yeah, no, this is like really well put together one. Like I really liked it. I liked his other movies a lot too, but I thought this one was like a massive step up. Maybe that's just because I'm more like, I do like the neo-realism stuff, but I'm also just kind of a sucker for just a really well put together
like drama.
I just like movies that can fire on all cylinders, and this feels like one of those movies.
Yeah. And it just feels, I like this because it feels like it's the same cohesive themes that he's been going for. And even the same like realism that he's been striving towards.
Yeah.
But with a twinge of magic, with like this kind of supernatural element, with these big name actors that he's able to make feel authentic.
Yeah. No, it's definitely like a soft magic realism. Like not quite out in the weeds like a Big Fish, but it's like, you know, one of those movies that's just like one step away from reality. Maybe. Yep. I mean, open to interpretation with this one.
Yeah, this is really a movie that I like talking about. And I would love to talk to others about this. There are some movies that like I could just talk to about what it meant and what I thought it means for hours, and this is one of them.
No, I'm really interested to rewatch this one and see how I feel about it in the future, because obviously I really liked it this time, but there's a lot of stuff that would be even better on a rewatch.
And I feel like things that might have flown over my head in the first like first act that I think would.
When I was first watching it, I wasn't quite as hot on it because it was like a lot of setup, and I was like, I'm not exactly sure how much of this is going to amount to anything, but then by the end, oh fuck. Yeah. So yeah, I really like this one.
Me too. I'd give this one a 9.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. If I rewatch it, and I might go up in the future too. But yeah, it was a great week. I really enjoyed both those movies. Really intriguing. And you know what's interesting about Charles Burnett and like John Funakoshi is like when people came out to like build this LA rebellion and make a counterpoint to like Hollywood in this time, I think they like this really both these movies feel substantially different to like Hollywood at this time.
No, yeah.
Like To Sleep with Anger is really different than most of the movies coming out.
I'd say like To Sleep with Anger has a bit of like standard like Southern drama tone for like that era. Like,
I think the tone, but the things they do with it, and even like thinking back to like Penitentiary, the way that's structured and the way they write their characters, I think is really different from a lot of other Hollywood writing around like the 80s and 90s. So.
Yeah, I could see it.
Just interesting. I do want these are probably the Penitentiary trilogy, and these two and Killer of Sheep are probably one of the most like influential and like talked about today of that rebellion. But I know like Daughters of Dust stemmed from that, and I've heard good things about that. And there are a couple other ones, like big ones, that I want to watch. But just a really interesting like subgenre, I guess, of this time period.
Yeah, like a movement.
Yeah. A little pocket of intrigue. But yeah, another exciting episode. Next week will be the 1st of March.
Did I hear Italian Stallion?
Damn!
Oh, shit.
Did I hear Spy Kids 3D, the toy maker, is here?
Did I hear somebody say something about don't shoot, my grandmother's a cop or something?
Did I hear some... That's exactly what it was called. I'm pretty sure. Or maybe my mother? I don't know. Was it grandmother?
I think it's...
My grandma's a cop?
I don't think it's my... I think it's like don't...
Stop. I think it's stop, I don't know. My grandma...
Sylvester Stallone, mom. My mom's got a gun. Sylvester Stallone, mom. Stop or my mom will shoot.
Did somebody say, hey, I'm John Rambo and this is your ticket to paradise?
Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to be watching the very famous, the very boxy Rocky movies. I almost called it the trilogy, but it's definitely
the two trilogies.
It's two trilogies, right? Yeah. Technically 3 if you count Creed. Yeah. So, but we're only gonna watch Rocky, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 5, and Rocky Balboa.
And I've heard pretty good things about almost all these movies. I've heard Rocky 5's bad. Is that the one that's bad?
I feel like you might like Rocky 5. It seems like a movie that would pique your interest, but it's not like bad. It's just not. I feel like it's a direction that not a lot of people wanted. It's a different Rocky movie. It's not like him getting in the ring. It's like he's retired and he's like trying to teach his kid how to like fight, but then he ends up teaching some other kid how to street fight, and his son gets jealous. It's really weird, and it's not a normal Rocky movie.
Kind of sounds like Cobra Kai, like the direction they take in Cobra Kai.
I could see it kind of having a Cobra Kai vibe. Yeah, I think it might have been trying to ride some of those Karate Kid coattails at the time, maybe, because I think it's like 89. But there's a lot of interesting stuff from Rocky 5. I don't think it's like wholly bad, but it's not one of my favorites. But anyway, yeah, Rocky 1 through 6, or Rocky through Rocky Balboa.
It's funny because Rocky 5, like, John Alvinson did both the Rocky movie. He did most of the Rocky movies, or he did Rocky 1 and he did Rocky 5, and he also did all the Karate Kid movies. So he's like, so remember that movie I made? Look at this other movie we made. Now what if we...
Yeah, and I mean, Sylvester Stallone doesn't think Rocky. He's like, he doesn't count Rocky 5. He's like, he does not like that one. But
okay.
Apparently he's doing the same thing with Creed 3. So
I don't think he's in that one.
Yeah, there is some sort of a disagreement behind the scenes.
Michael B. Jordan said, I'm going to make all the fight scenes like anime. And he's like, I don't like anime. I'm Italian.
Yes. Still unconfirmed. I'm not. Well, his middle name.
His name was like Nochi, right? Or
No, it was
Garbanzo?
It was something close to Garbanzo. Let me just go back. I'm up. Stop. My mom will shoot. Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone. I think that's how you pronounce
like
it. Let's see.
Early life.
Apparently, wait, hold on. It says his other name is Sylvester Enzio Stallone or Sly Stallone.
His Italian father. His father's name is Francesco.
Well, what I'm looking at says his name is Frank. So, no, obviously. Okay.
Anyway, we're going to be watching those, so we'll see you next week for another exciting episode of Screen Weens.